Good morning. Good morning. I'm Joanna, coordinator for the service this morning. Welcome. If this is your first time at North Chapel, we hope you'll sign the guest book at the back and stay on to be more than a guest. There's nothing better than a guest. Maybe more isn't the right word. Our minister, Reverend Leon Dunkley, will be giving this morning's reflection. Next week, the Moving Spirit Dancers will be doing a program, and Mary Blanton has an announcement.
Good morning. One of my favorite things about summer at the North Chapel is pizza night. So every Wednesday, we hope to have pizza night. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't have enough volunteers. So don't fear, you don't have to sign up for the whole summer. If you could help just one or two Wednesdays, that would be great. We have all of the instructions written down so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And if you're gluten-free, we have gluten-free crusts. And if you're dairy-free, we have dairy cheese. So it's fun to make pizzas yourself and delicious to eat them.
Long ago, maybe 80 years or so, my father went to visit a couple that he knew pretty well, and he walked in the house, not locked, safe time, safe place, and didn't find anybody, so he's made his way upstairs, and there was a little woman who I think of now as old, because when I knew her, she was old, but I don't suppose she was quite that old then. Anyway, she was saying to herself, Jesus, no J's. Jesus, no J's. I didn't give you the whole story. Because you don't know what she was doing. So you can imagine what she might have been doing, that she would be cross and use those words. Well, she was setting type like Gutenberg. And she was probably setting, I don't know whether it was for her or what it was for, because I have a file of her Christmas cards and I looked at them. It's probably not complete. I didn't find any. She was a good Unitarian. I didn't find any of them with the word Jesus. But there's this one, which was the first sonnet I ever memorized, and I still have it. This one was 1960, and it's by John Greenleaf Whittier. So I'm using that for our opening words. We live by faith, but faith is not the slave of text and legend. Reason's voice and God's, nature's and duties never are at odds. What asks our Father of his children save justice and mercy and humility, a reasonable service of good deeds, pure living, tenderness to human needs, reverence and trust, and prayer for light to see the Master's footprints in our daily ways. No knotted scourge or sacrificial knife, but the calm beauty of an ordered life whose very breathing is unworded praise. A life that stands as all true lives have stood, firm-rooted in the faith that God is good.
Good morning. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Today is Sunday, May 25th, and the title of this morning's reflection is There is a Way Through This, Dorothy. It's a reflection about finding hope in what seems like hopelessness. One of my favorite poets, singer, songwriter, a guitarist named David Wilcox, who actually went to seminary, wrote a song called Love Will Show the Way that I often quote, and I want to quote it again this morning. He writes, "You say you see no hope, and you say you see no reason we should dream that the world will ever change. And you're saying that love is foolish to believe because there'll always be some crazy person with an army or a knife to wake you from the daydream and put the fear back in your life. But look, if someone wrote a play just to glorify what's stronger than hate, would they not arrange the stage to look as if the hero came too late? He's almost in defeat, and when it's looking like the evil side will win, on the edge of every seat, from the moment that the whole thing begins, it is love that mixed the mortar. It is love that stacked these stones. It is love that made the stage here, though it looks like we're alone. And in this scene that's set in shadows, like the night is here to stay, there is evil cast around us, but it's love that wrote the play. In this darkness, love will show the way. But you have to believe. It's really important to believe. A young woman named Dorothy dreamed about a wizard and about a witch, and she dreamed about a faraway fantasy paradise that she called Oz. Dorothy Gale. She walked a long yellow brick road to get to where she wanted to go. But if she could, I think she would have flown. It would have gotten her there quicker. She sang about what she dreamed about, but what she was doing was she was running away. She was running away from the things that deeply scared her. That was in 1939. Years later, when Ella Fitzgerald sang about Dorothy Gale, she sang about Dorothy's fears, or rather she sang about the situation in which Dorothy was fearful. She sang, "When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the rainbows tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the highway, darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step behind the rain somewhere, over the rainbow, way up high. Skies are blue, bluebirds fly." There are 3 verses. I have 2 friends visiting from Schenectady today, the ministers from the Schenectady church, our sister church, not too far away. We went to seminary together. In the first or second year of our friendship, which was deep, it felt like we had known each other for 20 years, and that felt great. Now we've really known each other for 20 years, and it feels weird. But we had a saying about the beautiful things that happened at seminary, which was what happens over the rainbow stays over the rainbow. It's sort of licensed to go ahead and live your best life and do so when you need to, privately, and in a sacred trust that engenders beautiful friendship. We could use some of that friendship more and more these days. Now, we have to believe in ourselves. We have to choose a positive attitude nowadays, against the odds and against the grain. A positive attitude, but without faking it. We do need this in order to make good things possible. I think one of the things that makes things possible is healing. I think that this answer, this healing, has to do with meatloaf. This is theologically complicated. I don't think you have any idea what I'm referring to. But I'll tell you, it's something called that I would call unusual wisdom. But here's the story. It's important to open up an unusual door. Now, years ago, in Barack Obama's second term, close to the end of his presidency, there was a correspondence dinner, a White House correspondence dinner that happened in Washington, D.C. I think it was in 2015 or so, and Barack Obama roasted one of the guests that was attending that party, a man who would go on to become the 45th and the 47th president. Then President Obama made fun of a man who had championed the birther controversy. Do you remember that? The birther controversy was a news media scandal with an ugly and obviously racist marker that questioned Barack Obama's citizenship. I hated this. I hated seeing that the bar of American leadership was being set so low. President Obama hated it too, and he made his feelings known by roasting one of his guests who had attended the correspondence dinner. He said, "Donald Trump is here tonight, and no one is happier, no one is prouder to put the birth certificate matter to rest, because we can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter." Obama said, "Obviously, we all know about your credentials and your breadth of experience. Just recently, in an episode of Celebrity Apprentice, the men's cooking team did not impress the judges from Omaha Steaks. And there was a lot of blame to go around, but you, Mr. Trump, you recognized the real problem was a lack of leadership, and you didn't blame Lil Jon, who's a rapper, and you didn't blame Meatloaf, who was also on the show. Meatloaf is a 1980s rock star, actually. You fired Gary Busey. Lil Jon is an American rapper. Meatloaf is an 80s rock star. Gary Busey is a man who placed himself in front of movie cameras for films like Buddy Holly Story and Sharknado 4. Classic. Then President Obama, and soon enough to be President Trump, were starting a fire between the two of them that is presently burning big parts of our culture to the ground. If we want it to stop, we're gonna have to surrender. Do you remember that scene in The Wizard of Oz? When the Wicked Witch writes on the sky, "Surrender, Dorothy," right? I think we're gonna have to surrender something, but not anything that would have satisfied the Wicked Witch. Do you remember the song that we sang last week? You've gotta sing like you don't need the money, love, like you've never been hurt. You gotta dance like nobody's watching. It's gonna come from the heart if you want it to work. The first verse was, when I was a young man, my daddy told me a lesson he learned, it was a long time ago. If you want to have someone to hold on to, you're gonna have to learn to let go. We're gonna have to learn to let go of that which makes it hard for loved ones to hold on to us. We'll have to let go of being expensively right. We all know what it means to be exclusively right, which is to be right to the exclusion of others, which is still useful sometimes if we were to do it less proudly, maybe less triumphantly. But to be expensively right is to be right or to pretend to be right at far too high a cost. To build walls between nations that compensate for failed political strategies. To tear working families apart who are seeking asylum. And simply trying to live freely. It's too expensive a victory to pretend that we, together, are not entirely capable of getting through this massive mess we're in. Now, how many of us are used to choosing the moral high ground? Well, I've got like 4%. Okay. Okay, let me ask again. How many of us are interested in choosing the moral high ground? That's beautiful. Okay. How often and how gracefully do we suffer fools and maintain attitudes of kindness and generosity? Especially when we know that we're not going to get credit for doing so. I ask because the moral high ground and kindness and generosity, with these in our tool shed, we can get through all of this. We really can. There is a way through all of this, but there is no poetry to cling to just yet. We'll have to write that poetry. We can get through all of this, but there is no art, no music, no dance, no theater, but it's coming. We may just be writing the manuscript right now, at this moment. In challenging times, it's easier to be inspired by the world. We see hopeful things around us. We hear such fascinating stories, and we listen closely enough, and we can hear the awesome, wild, undefeated, and half-dangerous voice of God, or the sounds of nature, or the silence in the stars in the heavens above us all. I want to ask you, if I may, did you appreciate the story for some ages that Joanna Long offered to us earlier? Did you appreciate the book by Kwame Alexander and Kadir Nelson, who illustrated it? It was a beautiful process for me learning about this book this week from Joanna. It was amazing to see and to touch the book, to feel and hold the book in my hands, to feel the colors with my fingers, and to remember these American heroes, elegant, black, and dignified, fully triumphant. It reminded me of my father's office in New Jersey and my Uncle Teddy's study in his home up in New Rochelle. Uncle Teddy was like a mythical superhero to me. He was a strong and lovely man. He had a bull mastiff for a pet. And the name of the mastiff was Justice. I was terrified of that. Teddy was super charismatic, jovial, and funny. He had a big smile and a tremendous laugh that he shared with my dad, and hopefully that they passed on to me. He was an athlete and a great fan of basketball and tennis. In fact, he was playing tennis when he died. As my cousin Don O'Bannon explained at the funeral, Teddy, these are his words, Teddy was doing what he loved to do right until the end of his life. He was winning. He would have loved the Undefeated book. Where's Joanna? Oh, there. Where are you? Oh, there. He would have loved that book. Uncle Teddy was a scholar too. His study, the room itself, was dark and mysterious. It was wall-to-wall books and a comfortable chair with a little ashtray by it. He smoked a pipe. It was really scary in there. It felt a little bit off limits to me, and I think that was because it was. I used to sneak in there when I was a kid, and I think because they told me not to. I read through a lot of well-worn books about Africa, about slavery, about the Civil War, about the Civil Rights Movement. It was not an age-appropriate reading experience, but I did it anyway. Stealing books sometimes, and I would replace them the next time we visited. I stole them by putting them under my shirt, and I thought I was getting away with something. So imagine, right? An 8-year-old with a square chest. You know. I fooled no one, I'm sure, but the theatrics of it helped me to understand how my elders would have struggled to convey those terrible things to me. Things that I needed to know in order to understand our country. My dad's office was different. It was just as powerful as Teddy's study, but in a different way. It wasn't dark and mysterious. It wasn't scary at all. My folks were like cultural history editors, in a way. They tried to shield me and my sister as well as they could from the books and the ideas that were revolutionary, the things that Teddy's study explored in full. We didn't have a bull mastiff named Justice. We had a pet orange cat named Fluffy. A cat that made me sneeze incessantly. I'm poking fun at my extended family, but it's true. There were 2 fairly different experiences in my family, and they made sense when you held them both together. My Uncle Teddy's study taught me a lot about the severity, the violence, the vulgarity, and the monstrosity of racism. And my dad's office taught me a lot about the inmost facing wisdom that can save us, and the spiritual architecture, he was an architect, the spiritual architecture for surviving all of this in our shared history. I remember in my dad's office that he too had books surrounding him, windows on two sides. He was in the back corner of the house in the downstairs. I remember his drafting table, his green metal box that held his little things, the mechanical pencils, the special erasers, the stencils, the rulers and such. I would steal the erasers because I thought that they were magical and they worked really well. I'd get in trouble, but it was really fun. I remember this cartoon poster that my dad had in his office of the New York Knicks from like 1973, maybe the year they won, with Jerry Lucas and Phil Jackson and Walt Frazier and Willis Reed. Larry Bird was 17 years old in 1973. Young Michael Jordan was only 10. Donald Trump was 27 years old in 73, and Barack Obama was 12. LeBron James, the NBA's all-time leading scorer, wasn't born at that time. It was a different time back then. I remember this poster that my dad had behind his desk. It was above his green bulletin board that held all of his thoughts together. It was a poster of Angela Davis speaking into a square microphone in the early 1970s. Angela was his hero. I met her twice over the years at an academic conference one time and one time on our book tour. She's wonderful. She is so beautiful inside and out. I met her twice over the years, and my dad had never forgave me for that. He wanted to meet her, but he never did. This is her book and the one that she signed for me with my name. I appreciated that. She was also my friend's teacher. I have a friend named Laura Christian, Unitarian, who studied with her for 4 or 5 years at the University of California at Santa Cruz. Angela Davis has been in the news of late. When in the last 5 decades has Angela Davis not been in the news? She was being interviewed by Amy Goodman this time about what she referred to as the moral litmus test that is Palestine. Angela Davis said, "Palestine is really the center of the world," and that resonates quite deeply if we let it. It's powerful. It's easy to imagine otherwise. It's easy to imagine that hatred and fear are the driving forces behind the violence. Of course, those feelings are present, but they are easily drowned out by the rhythm of affirmation and resistance in the world right now. Easily drowned out by the wisdom and the affirmation of resistance in the war right now. Angela Davis explains that over the last period, we've seen students all over the country, as a matter of fact, all over the world. I visited, these are her words, I visited a number of universities abroad, and there are, I think on every campus in the world, there are movements to expand solidarity with Palestine. The world doesn't fear Palestine. The world doesn't hate Palestinians. We have to surrender those as driving thoughts for this conflict. We have to surrender the idea that fear and hatred are driving us. We have to surrender how precious they've become to who we think we are, how seductive they've become. Hatred and fear are seductive because they make us believe that we are powerful when we are being nothing more than vitriolic and righteous. Fear and hatred make us feel like we are personally in control of something that we most obviously are not. We have to surrender them in order to make sense of the story today, just as we had to surrender the idea of madness in the times of old John Brown. Do you remember John Brown? John Brown was the, madness came to define his life, but he was the old radical Christian abolitionist who staged an insurrection in Harper's Ferry in 1859, in the years preceding the Civil War. His victory was a Pyrrhic victory. In other words, it came at too high a cost. Well, maybe, depending on who you talk to or how you read the history. A win that seems to have cost too much because he was hanged for what he did, and all but one of his children who stood by him were slain. It certainly seems like madness, and it might have been madness back then. It still seems like madness today, but we have to surrender this. We have to give it up. We have to give up on madness because this moniker does not apply, not meaningfully now. In the voice of Owen Brown, John Brown's only surviving son, Russell Banks, an author, imagines what he was thinking. This is the only one who escapes to California in the aftermath of the insurrection at Harper's Ferry. The insurrection at Harper's Ferry. Russell Banks asks, "Was my father mad?" I realize that this is the only question that can matter to you, and how you answer it will determine how others will come to view the long and savage war between the white race and the black race on this continent. People do not know if he was sane or not, and they need to know. For if he was sane, then terrible things about race and human nature, especially here in North America, are true. And if he was insane, then other, quite different, perhaps not so terrible things about race and human nature are true. We have to surrender the idea of madness because it unusefully scapegoats John and impoverishes the rest of us, obscuring the terrible truths about human nature. We have to surrender the idea of madness, not to make sense of old John Brown, but to make better sense of ourselves in the time of old John Brown. Likewise, we have to give up on the simple ideas of fear and hatred with respect to Gaza, not in order to make sense of the October 7th attackers and the optical genocidal response that is unfolding, but in order to make better sense of ourselves in the time of the October 7th attacks. Angela Davis was right. Gaza is a litmus test. It's testing you, it's testing me, and it's testing us. It is the center of the whole world right now, and part of that center is inside of us. We can surrender to that which disserves us, and we will be better off. We can give up on what holds us back. There is a way through this, my darlings, but we must be wise as serpents and as gentle as doves. This is central to what it means to serve one's country, fundamental to the meaning of human freedom. We must defend good hearts wisely, gently, and with power, precisely because of what David Wilcox has already said, precisely because there will always be some crazy person with an army or a knife to wake you from the daydream and put the fear back in your life. Faith calls us to remember ourselves, to become a body again, to remain a body still, one human family. Faith calls us to remember, no matter how hard it gets, that it's love that mixed the mortar, and love that stacked these stones, and it's love that made the stage here, though it looks like we're alone. And in this scene that's set in shadows, like the night is here to stay, there is evil cast around us, but it's love that wrote the play. I believe that love will show the way, not romantically and not naively and not simplistically. Love will show the way profoundly if we take love seriously enough. There is a way through this, and that way is love. Ask Dorothy. Uncle Teddy had a dog named Justice. The Dunkley family had a cat named Fluffy. And if you don't think Fluffy was a bad cat, you don't understand the story. Amplify your love, your lightness, your laughter. Joni Mitchell has a line that says, "They're going to aim the hoses on you, but show them you won't expire. Not till you've burned up every passion, and not even when you die." Come on now, you've got to try. If you're feeling contempt, then you tell it. If you're tired of the sleepless night, then Jesus, with lots of J's, Jesus, you yell it. Condemned to wires and hammers. Do you know what she meant by that? She felt condemned to wires and hammers. She's a pianist. Okay, that's her home. condemned to wires and hammers to strike every chord that you feel, that broken trees and elephant ivories conceal. So find that song within your heart, find that smile and that laughter, and live it up to bring the heavens down. I'll talk to you soon. Blessed be, and amen.